Welcome to the Economic Development Committee. This is our second official meeting. Today is Monday, April 5th, 2021. We are meeting virtually in accordance with the governor's orders in effect during COVID regarding open meeting law and public meetings. We will begin by pledging allegiance, and then we will jump right into the agenda. So if you could join me, that would be great. I pledge of allegiance to the flag
United States of
One
America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
All right, thanks. There was some kind of funkiness going on with the audio. Hopefully that won't continue. Okay. Introduction of any new members. Mr. Combs, we're thrilled to see you. Thanks for joining us. And in our last meeting, we kind of all went around and gave a little bit of a background about who we were, why we were interested, and all of that. So do you mind me putting you on the spot quickly to have you give a little bit of a background on who you are and what you bring to the table and why you're interested and all that good stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely. How you doing? My name's Kevin, last name Cohen. As some of you might know, I am on the planning board, and I've enjoyed being on the planning board. You know, some of the town policies and things going on around town for projects. And now being on the Economic Development Committee, I feel like to, help out in bringing some more money or business into the town. I am a business owner. Currently, my business is located in Hanover. I would love to bring it back to Hanson if, some things we might be able to get changed to benefit not only myself, but it would be in benefit mostly of other people. But anyway, I am happy to be on the board here. I have lived in Hanson pretty much most of my whole life. I left for a couple of years college, but that was also in Massachusetts and Western Mass. And I just love the little town here, and I hope to contribute to our town. So
Right.
for having me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you, and thanks for joining us. With that, we have minutes, but we do. Dan and I are the only, Mr. Bathlon and I are the only ones that were actually at the meeting that could approve the minutes, and we need to have 3 members present to constitute a quorum, which could, of people that could approve those minutes. So we will have to kick that can down the road a bit, and we will approve those minutes at our next meeting. But that said, I do think, Kevin, I don't know if you had an opportunity to read through the minutes, and also Dan, if you had an opportunity to read through the minutes, because I did think they were somewhat helpful in kind of synthesizing the conversation that we had, and kind of, giving, I guess, kind of trying to condense all of the very many things that we talked about at the last meeting. Did either of you guys want to comment on the minutes or, have any questions or?
I had a couple of minutes to glance them over, but I kind of wanted a little bit more time to go into on them. I was hoping to, hear a little bit more this evening about direction of things.
Okay, sure. Totally understood. Deb, did you want to kind of focus in on what our mission is? Because one of the things we talked about at our last meeting, Kevin, and by the way, we did record it. So if you don't, if you'd prefer to hear it live and in semi in person, or at least recorded, you could listen to it on, Whitman Hanson cable access television on replay. But one of the things we discussed was how very broad this objective could be for this particular committee, and how that really isn't going to serve anybody, because we'll ultimately probably not to achieve anything if we end up having too many things we're trying to achieve. So we tried to narrow it down, and in the minutes you'll see that one of the things that we discussed was the local rapid recovery grant, which Deb is working on, and then a business outreach using local cable television, trying to clarify our committee mission, which I think is going to be a continuous work in progress. We're going to have to keep circling back and making sure that we're staying true to a mission, and that we're not bleeding into a bunch of other different topics or different objectives. Once we complete one task, then we can move on to another, but we don't want to have 50 million things we're trying to accomplish and accomplish none of them. We were going to invite representatives from the Hanson Business Network, and then Deb was going to get details regarding the grant that we mentioned and what other sources might be available to the town. So Deb, could I turn it over to you to sort of talk about grant in general, some research you've done, the rapid recovery planning grant, and all that good stuff.
I'll tell you a couple of things. One thing I think we do need to probably, I don't think we need to clarify our mission. We all, I think, are clear on that, but maybe we need to segment it so that we are clear of what we're going to work on at the current time. So I think that needs to be clarified by the committee. So we'll put that aside. But the grant is a consulting firm that's going to help us do some planning in order to help our small businesses recover from COVID. So since our last meeting, I have met with a representative from Stantec, which is the consulting firm that has been assigned to us by the state to help us with that. They have created that business survey and a flyer on how to use the survey. They are requesting that survey go out to the businesses local to just Main Street, and I included that schematic this afternoon when I sent you the minutes and the agenda of the businesses that we're going to focus on. Because when I did the grant, I had to pick an area. The grant application allowed 2 areas, so I pretty much stayed on Route 27, and then they said, no, we're going to focus on one area, so I focused on the MBTA area. I had to title it as well, and so it's the South Hanson Village is what I titled that area. I have met the representative with Jim. Jim came, he was able to accompany me. We went down there and we walked to the area so that they could get firsthand knowledge of what we're dealing with down on Main Street. And we do have some empty storefronts there. We have a lot of blight, as you know, down there. And so I'm hoping that, and so the crux of this grant is just going to, as all grants work in municipal world, he's going to create a report with some planning stuff involved, but it's going to set us up for the next round of grants is really what I'm hoping. And so that's where really we're at. This business survey is only open to April 12th, so I really need to get it out to that area. So unfortunately, we have the business network that we can contact, but we can't just open this up to everybody. So it's a little difficult for me. And the business network's database is just email addresses, and the town's database is just street addresses. So I've got to probably try to cross them if I can, the best I can. I did go door to door while we were out there last Thursday walking around. I did try to grab some of the businesses and give them the flyer and say, hey, I've included the flyer this afternoon as well. So if any of you can get it out, or maybe you can do some door to door yourself. I don't know. My time has been limited, although I'm starting to, my town meeting stuff is pretty much done now. So I'm going to have a little more time to get out and head down to Main Street and try to get some more people, because they're going to use the information in that survey to help direct where we go with our planning. and our
So
grants.
Deb, you said you sent us the list of the businesses, or
No, I just sent you the survey, like a flyer for the survey. It's just got the survey link on it.
okay. Oh yeah, I saw that. Do you have, so is that what you're struggling with putting together, is which businesses are in the location that you listed in the grant? Like, because there's no comprehensive central database for that.
Right, and like I said, yours, the business network is all email addresses. So
It
how do I know
is,
which
yeah.
one is the which? How do I know which one belongs to Cafe Deli?
You don't. I mean, I
Right,
guess, as a backstop, you may be able to
cross
send it
reference.
out and say if you're in this area, and hope to God that people know what area they're in and would only respond if they were in that area. But I'm not exactly sure how scientifically accurate that needs to be. And is somebody, is there a way for us to validate that the people responding are in fact in the targeted area that we've represented to the state in the application?
I I doubt it. I think, and just so you know, every state in this application that got this grant, and there's a lot of them that got the grant. Um, I mean, every town, they they're all doing the same business survey as well, because I think the state really wanted to get feedback on how businesses were doing after COVID. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why they don't want us to use our own survey, because they want consistent information to get a pulse on what's going on statewide with businesses. So this is their way of doing that. So you all have the flyer in I sent it to you this afternoon. The schematic should be there, Laura, in your stuff that I sent you, that's showing you the Main Street outline, which is basically from High Street to uh, up near like the little Ace Hardware, and that little convenience store right past Ace Hardware. That's the area on Main Street. And there are quite a few businesses in there.
All right, so Deb, can you just go through this one more time for those of us who may be spatially challenged? Specifically, I am. So it starts where?
High Street,
Okay,
on
so High
where
Street,
High
like,
Street intersects Main Street.
okay, yep,
On Main Street all the way up to Ace Hardware, but there's a little plaza past Ace Hardware that right next door to it that we include. I don't know what it's called, where there's a real estate office and a convenience store.
okay, all right, that makes sense to me. I mean, that's a pretty big swath right there, and
Yeah,
it is
good.
primarily where most of the brick and mortar businesses anyway are located. Yeah.
Right. So that's the area that we're looking to do to get this business survey out. So that's my imminent need at this point. Like I said, we did walk out last Thursday. I did hand out some of the pamphlets. Tomorrow, I probably will try to cross some of those, or I have like contact information for like Dunkin' Donuts, the Carol at Dunkin' Donuts, although I did leave one there, but I can reach out to her and ask her to do it. I think it's Mr. White at Casoli's. I could probably try to get a hold of him and see if he could help me get it to his tenants down
Yep.
on Main Street. And I could stop at the Mangiello's building and hand it out to the businesses that are located within that building. But if
Hey,
there's
Deb.
anybody else that has any other interest, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say, Deb. Can we just take a pause and kind of do a round robin, see if people have got any thoughts on this? Dan, were you saying something?
Yeah, please. So one thought I had is just to make sure that, because I don't mind pounding the pavement a little bit, and I'm sure the other guys would as well. Is there possible to maybe put together a list of all those businesses? And I know you kind of touched on that. Maybe a target list, and then maybe we can put it in like a OneDrive file where like when you talk to someone, you're planning on talking to someone, you note that. That way we're not like going one behind each other, going to the same business 3 times, and like, oh, I just talked to Deb, or I just talked to Kevin or Jim. You know what I mean? That way we can all just kind of take a strategic approach, not waste time, and then just be able to contact the most amount of businesses as possible.
Okay. I'm just trying to see if what I sent you, if it's because I do have other stuff. The Southampton Village draft. Let me see. If you
Is
look
there a
on,
way for you to share that on the screen, Deb?
no,
All right.
I may be able to log in on this computer. I'll see if I can. But I sent it to you today with the agenda and the minutes.
Okay.
It's called the South Hanson Village Draft, and if you open it up, it's the area that I just described to you, but it has the names of the businesses, or at least a good portion of the businesses if you zoom in. So it has like Campo, I don't know, Cafe Deli, and it has a collision, Atlantic Metal Recycling, Main Street Auto, all these different businesses. I don't know that it's all encompassing, but at least it's something that we can work from.
Are you talking about the map you sent out, Deb?
Yeah. Can you see
Yeah.
that? Do you see the names of the businesses?
Yeah.
I don't know, Dan, if I'm going to be able to put together like a sort of a spreadsheet because this really needs to get out in the next week. This
Well,
business.
if we can't do a spreadsheet of the businesses, is there a way to divide and conquer by address? So at least, it's like, okay, 1,000, I'm making this up, but like, I'm going to hit 1,000 Main Street, you're going to hit 1,100, just to Dan's points, just so that we don't have any overlap of effort. Because I'd be more than willing to, go out and pound the pavement. But again, I don't want to feel like I'm duplicating efforts um, and doing this.
Okay.
So, I mean, we maybe could do it by address if we don't have a centralized database of the businesses.
Okay. That works.
That would be awesome.
And in long term, Deb, because, it seems to me as though this won't be the only time that we're going to need to reach out to businesses and that they are the key since we're working on economic development. I'm wondering, like, where can we go to try to put together a comprehensive mailing list to businesses? Because the Hanson Business Network, it is all through email, just because it's a all volunteer army, and most people respond to the emails. But we may have people that that have not shared their emails with us. Like, have we checked with like the town clerk or the town assessor?
So
Like,
I do have a list. I'll see if I can send it to you guys. I have a list. It's a mailing list though, with no email addresses. So it's just the opposite of what you have, right? And so that's why I say we may be able to cross them if it's apparent. Like if somebody's email address is the chimney chap at gmail.com, well, we might be able to figure out that's the chimney chap, right? But if
okay.
it's just, so I haven't spent the time yet to try to cross them and say, okay, that's it. And you can look at it and then say, okay, that's on Main Street. We know that's on Main Street.
Jim? Yep.
Yeah, well, we should be able to get the address and the contact information for everyone that has a business license. The town has that.
Well, that's what
Right.
Deb's saying. She does have the physical address. She doesn't. There's no one centralized database of email and hard copy address. But for our purposes right now, Deb, we really just need the hard copy, the
Yeah.
actual address.
It's the time crunch, but I can
Yeah.
send you guys that list. The other thing, Laura, is I'm careful not to share the business network database because that's sort of a private thing. So I think we would want permission before we start sharing it.
Is it also possible, Deb, you think, to put out just maybe a notification on like Hanson Connect or something, and just have a town website that they can reply to? And we're almost starting from ground zero here, and then we just start, establishing that database.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Dan.
Hanson Connect, is that
Put it on the Town of Hanson Facebook page, and then because that's the original place that all town related stuff should come from. And then it should be shared from there onto the various Facebook pages. But if you get it onto the town Facebook page, then I can take it from there and share it. And then similarly, what's your deadline again, Deb?
the 12th?
Okay, well, I know it's a tight timeline, but similarly, is it possible to send a blurb to Whitman Hanson Cable? And then to the Express, the deadline would be sometime tomorrow. So once I know this sounds like a lot, but once you come up with the language, you're essentially just sharing it to different sources. So once you come up with almost the press release type of blurb, and put that out there, I'd even be willing to send it to the Express and to Whitman Hanson Cable if you can just do the language of here's the link to the da da da. It needs to be, put it, you need to respond by such and such a date. This is what the information will be used for, that type of thing.
Deb, is the 12th is the date just for our target area, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
think going the other way is too premature. We're gonna boil the ocean or the Hanson Pond. If we put it out that way, we're gonna get a lot of information coming in. Other businesses are gonna read that and want to dive into it. I think we gotta focus on getting this first part done just on the target audience and then follow up. Because I think there's a lot of great information we can follow up afterwards, but I don't think we want to have too much extra information coming in because of the deadlines.
I mean, valid point. We've got a targeted audience for this first pass. But ultimately, long term, for this committee to be able to do the things we need to do and, for things that are going to come up, we're going to need a better database, but it's not the
Agreed.
immediate need,
I'll,
yeah.
I will send you the database that I have gotten from the assessor's office, so you guys can all see what I have to work with. So you'll have something, because it does have names and addresses, and there's a lot of businesses, and there's a lot of mom and pop businesses in there. But at least we have something to start with, and then we might want to start creating a new database. Maybe we do like a mass mailing and ask them to send us their email so we can link an email with the name and address of the business.
Yeah.
Or even a web page, I'm just looking at that flyer that we got for this survey, if that's something that I could put out, and it would, it just says attention South Hanson Village businesses. So I don't know, people are just gonna probably just answer the survey anyway.
Well, they're going to know, like I wouldn't know if I was a business in South Hanson. Like
what I
South
mean.
Hanson Village sounds very Tony, but I don't really know who the heck it applies to, and I don't think most of the businesses are going to either. So
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't really help. I could change the language though. I could put, businesses located within I would say a half a mile of MBTA station. That's probably the area.
You know what? I don't think we should do that, because then the rest of the town's going to say, yeah, wait a minute, what about us? And we're putting our committee behind the 8 ball before we start. So I think I think the best way to get this strip done is get ourselves out there on the pavement, knocking on doors. And
divide and conquer by address. I think strategically, with the time frame that we've got and the the resources or lack of resources that we've got, I think that's probably the best way to do it. And Deb, I don't want you to feel like you're doing this all by yourself, because this is a committee and we signed up to help. So if we can just get a list and divide, then I think we can get it done.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Kevin, thoughts?
So yeah, I just had another question. With the survey and the deadline being on the 12th, do we want to bring the survey to the business and have them fill it out and give it right back to us, and get it emailed in ourselves to ensure that it's in time? Or is it something that they would be responsible for emailing the survey in themselves?
It's a Survey Monkey, so there's either like a thing you can scan and it will come up the survey, or you type in the
There's a QR code
survey.
that they scan.
Okay.
And it's I emailed you a flyer that has that information. So if you can print out those flyers, that will be what you bring to
This is
business.
the one here we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you
Kev,
can't,
all we
I
have to
can
do is
print them.
print this and have them put their camera over the QR code, and it'll bring up the survey, and then they can just do it right there, and then everyone's done.
Yeah. And right above that QR code, if they can't do that, is the link to Survey Monkey as well.
Yep.
And you all have that. You can print it. If you can't print it, I can print some. You can come by the town hall and grab them.
Hey, Deb, just quick, what's the difference between the two flyers? One's colored, one's
Nothing
not?
but aesthetics. They're just
Okay.
aesthetically different. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I just printed, my color printer wasn't working, so I printed out the one that I thought looked the best in black and white, that's all.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure, because I did
Yeah,
stop by.
no.
Great conversation with the antique shop dealer.
What,
Oh,
King's
okay.
Ransom, Jim?
What's that?
King's Ransom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice comment. He also does watch repair there. Didn't
Oh,
know
wow.
that.
Good to know.
But
Um,
gave him the flyer and we went through that and had a good conversation.
okay, and he was responsive, like, and kind of interested in what we were doing, or?
Yes, he was.
Okay, good, good. That's good to hear. Because I think so many of these businesses have been ignored, and really we haven't partnered with them as a town. That I think people are either going to be disbelieving or excited. I don't think we're going to get anybody in between. So I want to turn the disbelievers into believers. So okay, good. So Deb, anything else we need to know about that rapid recovery planning grant? So what I'm hearing is you're going to get us at least addresses or like chunks of where we know there are businesses, for instance, like Casoli, Cafe Deli, like right there is probably like 15 businesses. And the industrial park would not be in this, so we don't need to
No.
worry about that. But I think like the building that Whitman Hanson Express is in, Marangello, some of the other businesses across the street there, the business where Spiro's is, he's actually applying to do a convenience store, so I'd really like to hear from him on what, they think we need. So I think even if we were able to get, those businesses, Ace, and then that strip mall next to Ace, even if we were able to get that, I think that would be critical mass of some sort, right?
hmm I'm just
Okay.
looking, so up near Ace, that's about 1370 Main Street, and I know Mangiello is like 1,000 Main Street,
Yep.
right? So can we each take like 100, like 1,000 to 1,100, 1,100 to 1,200, 1,200 to 30, and I don't know that that's equal in weight because there is residential in there, but I just don't know if it's a way to divvy it up.
I mean, we're making this stuff up, Deb, right? This is our
Yeah.
first pass, so we got to just improvise and go for it, and then we'll come back afterwards and figure out whether that was the right approach or not. We have
Yeah.
to be entrepreneurial, Deb.
So if anybody just wants to start jumping in and take a 100 section down there, then I mean that might be the way to just start, and I can try to fill in the blanks. I mean, I don't mind, or if there's a time that somebody has during the week that they want to go out there, I could meet them out there as well, and we could work different sections, whatever.
So I can do Marangello. I've been wanting to chat with him anyway about what's going on there and have a follow-up. And I've got his contact info, so I can do Marangello.
I'm going to give you 1,000 to 1,100 then. That's where you're at.
Okay.
And that's that's him over there, those buildings. I don't know what's on the other side of the road. But
Yep.
anybody want to do 1,100 to 1,200?
I'll take it.
All right, Dan, it's yours. And how about 12 to 1,300? Anybody want to do that? I'll do 12 to 1,300. Or who? Do you want to do it, Kevin?
That is, but I'd be happy to take that, or if you want me to take the end down by
Oh,
East Hardware in the strip mall there, or I'm open to wherever you need me.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you 12 to 1,300, Kevin.
Okay.
I'll do the
I'll figure
right.
out what section that is.
Unless you want to do it, Jim. Jim, you want to do the end?
The end?
Yeah.
I'll do whatever you want. I was just looking, you know what? I'm open all day Wednesday. I can just start hitting it on Wednesday and see how far I get. I mean, these are really only 5-minute discussions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, why don't I see what I can do on Wednesday? And then I'll put a note back out if, what I had missed, like what wasn't open. Because there were a lot of things that, a lot of them are little garage, suites type of thing.
Right. Yeah. Deb, are you going to give us like little talking points just so we're consistent about what we're saying and not making
So,
stuff up?
well, when I went into them, I just said, hi, I'm Debbie from the town of Hanson. I'm the town planner. We are really have a business survey. We're interested in how COVID has affected your business. We'd really like you to take this survey. If you could, take the survey, help us get information. So we're working on ideas to try to help the small businesses. And that's
Okay.
really all I said to them. And, they were pretty receptive to it. I think they were surprised by it, that I was on foot and I was in their storefront, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was nice. It was nice for me. I haven't been, I've been in Mangiello's building multiple times, but I haven't walked the rest of it. So it was nice for me. I didn't even
Yeah.
know there was a convenience store up by Ace Hardware. So I didn't do all of them. It was just, because I was just trying to show the consultant the area. But while I was out there, I figured I would, use my time and try to get some of it done.
Well, I applaud your effort, but can you make sure that you tell us which businesses you went to? Again, back to Dan's point of not duplicating efforts, because um, people may feel less than enthusiastic if we come out twice and tell them the same spiel. They're like, can these people talk to each other or what? So we want to avoid that scenario.
And then likewise to James's point, if you're going to go out on Wednesday and start pounding the pavement, just take your section and I'll take my section. We'll just divvy it up that way, and we'll all pitch in and we'll all just have a streamlined, targeted effort to get it done.
Okay.
So Deb, are you going to send a little note, like a confirmatory note that we cannot deliberate, so BCCS, so nobody deliberates on it, just saying, here's what you guys signed up for, just so we make sure that everybody's got their marching orders and they understand their role.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, that's fabulous. Thanks so much for doing all this, Deb. And what else? Any other exciting type of grants or anything out there on the horizon that you're thinking of that you've been hearing about?
No, I think all the grants that I see coming are all infrastructure type grants. That's what I'm guessing at this point from, what I'm hearing from the state down. We're going to be seeing, money for infrastructure. So unfortunately, Main Street isn't ready yet. We're not ready to decide where we're going with the actual street and structure of it. But that is one of my goals, is to move forward with that, so that if there's something that we need on Main Street, which we need one of everything and then some, we'll be ready to apply for a grant.
All right. Well, the thing that I know we've talked about before, and we even talked to Brady and other people, Whitman and others, Brockton, was getting sewer on Main Street. And of course, it's a huge price tag. But when I saw the ARPA and what it could be used for, immediately it sprung to mind that potentially we might be able to tap into that for town sewer, right? Just in that strip, because I'm not suggesting we're going to become a city and, put sewer everywhere, but that strip, which we've targeted for growth and which we know one of the impediments to businesses locating there is because of the proximity to wetlands and all of the septic requirements. So
Right.
can you just kind of keep a little eyeball on that, see,
Right.
what we need to do there. I'm wondering if some of the businesses might not even respond saying, could you help out? Because this is an issue for us.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that obviously I've worked on sewer. Sewer requires a sewage treatment plant, and the problem is, we're in the aquifer zone district down there, the aquifer 2 zone, and that severely restricts what you can do down there. So I have poked all over this town trying to figure out where I can put a sewage treatment plant. And it's very, very difficult. So, but I will continue with, and there was something going on at OCPC where there was a couple of towns collaborating over sewer. So I tried to get in on that as well. Like, hey, you know, Hanson wants in too. So I am always, you know, cognizant of that, and that we do need that down there if we're going to grow.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fantastic. I'm excited about this. And so let's see. According to our agenda, we have updated on the local recovery planning grant, and we are meet the members of the business community, create action steps. We've discussed dispersing the business survey. Did anybody want to circle back on the goal of the committee and have any conversation about that? Okay. Yes, Dan.
Yeah, so I was gonna speak to that anyway. So the first one the first area of business is get the business survey out, right? And we'll start compiling data and doing all that. What's the next step? I mean, you mentioned SOAR. Is the next step SOAR, or is there an area development we want to focus on? What's step 2 and 3 that are going to be our top priorities?
I think that's open for discussion with the committee, but one of the things that I'd like to refine that, and then I'd like to start working with our legislators to get them to start hitting for us, because it shouldn't just be some wayward little committee trying to do our thing here on Main Street in Hanson, which is a Herculean task at best. I think we've got some partners on Beacon Hill who are strategically placed. I know Josh Cutler, believe is on the small business, and I think Brady has got a role there too. That's just one gal's perspective on it, but I think getting the help for the COVID is good. And then I don't know, what do you guys want to do? When I think about economic development, I do want to help the companies in town, but I want to clean Main Street up. I really want to clean Main Street up. Like, I just will feel as though we have not succeeded if we don't see that situation move in a positive direction. But again, that's just one gal's perspective. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Like, what are you hoping to get out of this? How are we going to measure our success?
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's actually what motivated me to kind of sign up for this, was that area, right? And then hearing about it and now reading some of the documents about it, it looks like it's been a focus for a long time. So yes, redevelop Main Street or develop Main Street, but it seems like that's been in a couple master plans over the last 10, 20, 30 years. So is there a reason things haven't moved forward there? Like, I know there's some restrictions or some roadblocks. So is it feasible to even look to develop that area? And if not, do we look somewhere else in town?
It is feasible to do it. I'll tell you why nothing's ever happened. Nobody has had a laser focus on it. We keep putting it in the master plan, and we do this habitually as a town. I know others do this too. We do all of these studies and we do all of these plans, and then nobody uses them.
Yeah.
It's like we just go through this exercise because we have to check off a box, or because we've got a grant, and if we don't, have a master plan or, open space plan, et cetera, fill in the blank. And I'm not picking on anybody. This is universally across like the whole town. We do these plans, people spend all this time doing them, and then we don't execute because we don't have the resources to execute the plan. So they're great plans. They're very often involve collaboration and input from a cross section of people. And at the time that they're produced, they're extremely meaningful. But just like any plan, if they're not kept refreshed, and if we don't have people constantly looking at them to say, is this still meaningful? Have we done anything on this? Or have our priorities shifted? But to be quite honest with you, we've never had an economic development committee. This is the first time we've ever had that. So we've never had a group focusing on it.
So a couple of things I think I want to try to clarify. So we have this grant that's just that one thing, right? And we're going to kind of keep that. We're going to use that and work on that, but that's a little bit separate. I think we talked about doing some business outreach, right? So I think in my book, and I mean different from the grant. We need to do business outreach. That's step 2 to me. So that it would be an action goal for me, right? 1 is this business survey and work and keep this grant moving. But 2, it would be the business outreach for the whole. So we can get a pulse on what's going on with these businesses and get feedback from them. So
But
that's where I
Deb,
would
can
head
I
with this.
just,
Yep,
can we just drill down a bit on that point there? And
yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but so how do you envision that happening? How are we going
Well,
to get it? Are you
at,
thinking like once things open up COVID wise, we could have an in-person kind of brainstorming session or another survey? I mean, I do feel as though we're going to have to meet people where they are, and we might have to do some combination of those types of outreaches, right? Because some businesses are going to just be like, look, I'm self-employed. I know we run into this sometimes, my husband and I do, where it's like you're self-employed. You are like 24 times 7 working on the business. And the thought of having to go to a meeting to talk about your business is just overwhelming, right? So you may not have people want to go there, but they'd be willing to fill out an online survey. And then again, you may have people who want to network and it may be therapeutic for them to go and talk to a bunch of other people and share their ideas. So I'm just wondering if we could do a combo, or like, how are you envisioning that?
I didn't have a vision. I know we talked about all of that last meeting, but I wanted to make a, a more of a plan, more of a definitive plan. We talked about um, going to the top 10 businesses, door to door. We talked about different stuff. So I just that's why I wanted to kind of like give it more of a definition. I think we need to do business outreach. What that looks like, I don't have the answer to.
All right. Anybody have any thoughts on that, Jim?
I
Well,
certainly could do a survey, but
No, I mean, we're dealing with the survey and all that. That's kind of something that fell in our lap. Okay, it's a one-off. It's not part of our overall strategy. I
Right.
mean,
correct.
we need to go back, and that's instantaneous. We're getting some grant money. We could get some grant money to do some good things. Okay, it's a point in time and a point that we're shooting at downtown, or that South Hanson Village. But what is Hanson? What do we want to be portrayed at out in the world? I mean, right now we talk about ourselves being an agricultural community. Well, I don't think we really are. I think there's some, but what is it that we want to be? Because that we get that down, then we can build short and long-term objectives, because that's going to tell us what types of new businesses do we want to bring in.
Hmm.
Okay. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, the mom and pop shops are always going to be there. If we can give them value add from whether it's the business community that we can hook them up with or something else, that's one thing. But hey, we're looking at an override coming up. All right. We need more revenue coming in. So what are the types of businesses that we can look to that can augment areas of revenue that we need, beyond just saying, okay, how many more houses can we build in town? I
Yep.
mean, the whole idea of the sewerage, putting sewer downtown Main Street, okay, what is that going to allow us to do? If the building owners that are still there aren't going to do anything that are buildings, or they're just going to do token stuff, then it's not going to get us our end desire. So, having a better picture of what is it we want the town to be, how do we want the outside world to look at us? We want to be a quaint little New England town. That's great. What else? What is the backside that is allowing us to stay quaint?
Hmm.
That's the thing that I think from an economic development committee, we should be looking at, is how do we bring more money in the coffers and meet our goal of whatever or whoever decides, because I don't see that really spelled out in our mission statement or in the big plan. I see a lot of statistics and information and some kind of light assumptions, but it isn't anything that says, okay, this is a clear hit. We should be doing this. Okay, or this is all right. What does it match up to? Why are we doing it? I think that's the story that our businesses want to hear. That's the next level discussion, is we're not only looking to do some things to help you, but to make this a fuller and richer business community, bringing more in. And I think we have to look at some of bigger businesses beyond just the little retail establishments and things like that, if we really want to do justice for the town.
Yep, agreed. Deb, I know
Yes.
you sent the master plan, but did you send the OCPC, because the Board of Selectmen probably 2 or 3 years ago, we got a grant to have somebody from OCPC come and do the economic develop. Basically,
Yeah,
did we
they all
share
have
that?
that. Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay,
So
all
I
right.
have a couple of things I wanted to say to that. I agree with you, Jim. That's one of the things that I think we need to do. What businesses do we want to draw? And of course, you've probably all heard my vision for Hanson, not coming from Hanson. I don't live there. Is that what does Hanson have that nobody else has? And I think of our open space and our trail system. That's being actively worked on and pursued. And I think of that. I'm like, people should come on the train, be able to get off, maybe rent a bike, maybe have a coffee, maybe not, be able to get a trail map right there and get to the trailhead, which isn't too far from there, and get on the trails and hopefully get to the new park that we're working on as well. But that's my vision, totally unilateral, somebody from out of town trying to figure out how do I move Hanson forward and what does Hanson have that no other town has? Why would you come to Hanson is sort of my thought process. So as a committee, I definitely think that's something that we need to focus on. How do we want to evolve? But back to cleaning up Main Street, I want to talk about that because there are ways to do that with legislation. And I don't know when, but I will put something together for you guys. There's facade programs, there's facade grants. And when I say facade, I mean the front of the building, and you do something where you say, okay, if you spend $5,000 on the front of your building, we will give you a tax break for $5,000. And I know right now giving tax breaks for Hanson is probably, I mean, that's like, I know I'm waiting for you guys to start shooting arrows at me, but I can propose these things. The other thing is if they spend money and that building increases in value because they've fixed it up, we agree not to increase their taxes for 5 years or things like that. So maybe I can put some of that stuff together so you can have some ideas if we can give some of these business owners down on Main Street some incentives. So that's just little pieces that we may be able to do to get these guys to move forward. There is also something called a block grant that you can get to spend on facade, which I have looked into. Every year it comes out. The problem is we don't have low income people, at least not according to the state. So it's really, really difficult. And the way they grade these grants is you might get 10 points if you have low income people, and you need anything over 40 points or you don't get the grant. And we have 0 points because we don't have low income people. So I'm already 10 points behind when I try to apply. And they've pretty much told me to not waste my time because they're really extensive and they take a lot of work. And I've said to them, I don't mind doing the work, but he's like, you would have to have 100% on every other piece of that grant to get the grant. But
no,
so
I
there,
appreciate, Deb, I appreciate that. And I think right now you're talking about grants and we haven't even decided what we want to focus on yet. You know what I mean? I think that's great. And I'm going to eventually look for something like what's the grant, what's the money, what's the criteria. But right now we're just trying to figure out, I think, what we want to focus on as our number two. You know, Laura and I said redevelop Main Street. Jim was talking more of a long-term goal. You know, what's Hanson want to become? I just kind of wanted to hear from Kevin what his thought was, number one, and number two, as a business owner who is not in Hanson, lives in Hanson, he said he would like to come back to Hanson. What does that look like for you?
Yeah.
That's a good point, Dan. Appreciate it. A couple of things actually. The main reason I had to leave Hanson from my own business was lack of designated that the town would allow my type of business, which is a dog-related business. The areas of town that it's allowed in is extremely limited, and so I had to move over to Hanover, which they actually have much less restrictions on where you can hold a dog kennel license. In the town of Hanson is pretty much restricted to the industrial park down there. Unfortunately, there's not that many owners in the industrial park down there. And then since it is industrial zone and there's not very much space down there, I should say. It fills up quickly. People rent out the space, and the landlords can, unless you own it, you really almost have the handcuffs on to that space, or you have to leave town. For my type of business, anyway. So that was one problem. I think with COVID, a lot more people are a little bit more scared to sign into a lease now. So there are some businesses that might benefit from doing, maybe almost a pop-up style business. Some towns are doing that sort of thing. Weymouth does it usually in the summertime. And that gives people an opportunity to see if their business idea works. And that could be a segue into bringing more business into the town as well, where people could try out their business as a pop-up business, whether it be for a day, for a farm stand, or a clothing boutique, whatever. It could be a day style business or a weekend event. That's something that would probably go great in with the park up on High Street, or maybe even a different location. But I do have some ideas like that where we're trying to figure out what type of businesses that we should have in the town to attract people from other towns. We talk about bringing more revenue to the town, and to bring more revenue to the town, we really need to attract other communities to our town. So there's a couple of ideas there. I know it's kind of beginning stages, but I do envision bringing a lot more businesses to the town. But in order to do that, we need to have the place for them to bring their business. And with some of the zoning requirements, we're limited. So we do have to look into what would be allowed in certain areas as well.
I agree, Kevin. I think that's a really great point, and I have heard feedback from some of the businesses in the Hanson Business Network, Deb, that some of our sign bylaws and some of the things that Kevin mentioned in terms of the zones that are approved for different businesses are somewhat prohibitive. And just, if you're trying to start off, if you're entrepreneurial and you're starting up a business, it just seems like too big of a mountain to climb. So you just say to hell with it. I'm going to go to a different town where, they're a little bit more relaxed about those types of things. And I don't think that it was ever intentional at Hanson. At least I have never heard a dialogue that was like, let's keep businesses out by being extremely, difficult with the zoning and the signs. But I think that the end result is the same, right? Whether it was intentional or not. I think we've got to look at how do we become more business friendly so that it doesn't seem as though there's so many impediments for people. Like just for instance, this is a simple thing, but I was listening to the radio the other day, and the city of Boston just relaxed the requirements for people that want to have a home business making, like, say, pickles or things like that. They said, what, making people have a commercial kitchen, making people do all these different things, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, we should relax some of these requirements. So they've got like a beginning program. It's just the first first step, but they're saying, they may ultimately end up moving into other businesses. Like maybe you could let people do hairdressing out of their house or a barber shop out of their house. Like because people are doing a lot more in-home businesses as a result of COVID, and the startup costs for doing it in your house versus finding, to Kevin's point, like a storefront, locking into a lease and all that stuff is a real impediment if you're trying to be entrepreneurial and you're kind of weighing cost versus benefit. And you're going like, oh God, the outlay, I'm going to have to commit for a year. I'm going to be penalized if I don't keep it for a year. So those are some things that I think we could think about. To Jim's point, yes, try to target businesses and attract them. But I think as a first pass, we need to think like, do we have impediments in place already in just our general bylaws and the way we're doing things that we could easily change and make things just more appealing? Jim, did you
Sure.
have something?
Yeah, I think the point that we want to, if we decide, or whoever decides, we want to stay a quaint little New England town, okay, allowing businesses to run out of houses and barns is what a quaint little town is. All right.
Yeah.
So with some of those, you know, I talked the other day about zoning and stuff. I think more so where we're picking different areas of town that we think would be areas we want to develop certain types of businesses, then we look at just those zones and say, instead of trying to tackle the whole town, say, okay, what are the areas that we should look at that have restrictive stuff that are going to stop, but pick one or two areas so we're not getting ourselves, like what's happened in the past. Have a great idea, a great plan, we build it up, but then there's not enough Indians to do the work.
Yep.
Agreed. So does everybody agree that that area is Main Street?
I'm not sure. I just want to say that I think that both Jim and Kevin's idea of zoning, they're almost one and the same. You use the zoning to drive what kind of business you get in a certain area. So they go hand in hand, and I think those are great points. You know what I mean? If you zone it only, so I think it does work well.
So the other thing I just wanted to add is I almost don't know if we need to add an additional type of zone to the town. I know, we have housing zones, we have industrial zone, business zone, and then we have a flex overlay zone, our agricultural zone. But the problem with that in a business sense is, with a home-based business, if you did want, to make pickles in your own home, technically you can't do that. And I'm not even getting into the, commercial kitchen thing. I'm just saying as an example, or if I wanted to, a tree farm here at my own property, if there was some way that we had another zone or approval, a faster approval process to somebody that did want to start out, that would really drive quite a bit more business in the town. And I think that those, to what Jim said, where our town is, more geared towards home-based businesses as a small town, and we don't necessarily need a storefront for certain types of businesses or that type of environmental impact on the town, and be forced into paying, an exuberant amount of rent somewhere for your business when you don't really need to. That would really bring a lot more business to the town where, if I just don't know if we need it to be a different zone or a different approval process. And that's kind of where the way I think is,
Or maybe both.
Yeah. I think it could be, but I think it's a 1-2 punch, Kevin. I feel like it's looking at the existing zones and seeing if there's some way to soften up the language a little bit about, like about home-based businesses or something. I mean, so what I'm kind of hearing from you guys is like Main Street, I think we universally agree that definitely needs to be cleaned up. It's a blight. We've got to try to support those businesses and figure out, but simultaneously trying to attract other businesses you're right, Kevin and Jim. You know, we are a small town. People moved here for a reason. They didn't move here because they were attracted to Brockton. And I'm not just, you know, disparaging Brockton. It's
Well,
perfectly fine if that's where you want to live. They moved here because they like the small town feel of it. And frankly, if we look around town and we think about all of the places that people could locate businesses, there really isn't anywhere big enough that would move the needle on the taxes we would receive from an enormous business like the size of, say, like an Ocean Spray or Light Control. You know, there is no land to bring a business like of that size. So I think that kind of all circles us back to, we need to find a way to attract smaller businesses, you know, maybe home-based businesses or not, but to Hanson, and make the permitting process a lot easier for people so that they're not feeling overwhelmed and go somewhere else like you experienced, Kevin. I think you're like our poster child for what we don't want people to feel like, and I'm sorry that you went through that. Um,
So
so
maybe that's one of our next call to actions, maybe for our next meeting, is to maybe as a group, we bring it up on the screen and look at our bylaws, and we just start going through it and changing the language and making it more small business friendly.
I mean, all we can do is propose it. Of course, town meeting has to approve it, but I think that, you know, if we start working on it now, we could easily have something prepared for the October town meeting, and, you know, and do some education in advance of that to explain to people why we are requesting the changes that we're requesting and what positive outcomes could happen as a result of that. I don't think people are going to fight us on that, because I think they'll see the sense in it. But one never knows what's going to happen at town meeting. All right. Well, this has been a good, robust discussion. Now, Jim, before you joined, we were going to try to approve the minutes from the last meeting, but I also have something that we had a bit of a technical misstep at our last meeting. Mr. Kodali had not been yet sworn in, which was why he looked quizzically at me when I asked about the ethics training and all of that, so package that he had received. So I went back to the vote, and the only vote that we had where he moved or seconded was the vote for vice chair. So I'm just wondering if we could revote that, so that we can clean up prospectively the fact that Dan had been nominated and it was seconded and unanimously voted, but Mr. Kodali's vote needs to be discounted. So that's my long-winded way of saying we need to revote it, and I'm looking for a motion to appoint a vice chair.
I nominate Dan for vice chair.
Looking for a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Don't we have conversation first?
Any discussion? Okay, thanks. Thanks, Jim. All right, roll call vote. Mr. Cohen
Aye.
and Mr. Garanitis,
Yes, aye.
Mr. Bathalon. And if I'm bastardizing your names, you guys need to correct me because I'll just do it forever. Mr.
Aye.
Bathalon. Okay, and Ms. Kemet, aye. Okay, so that's great. And then the other order of business before we wrap up, because I did tell you guys I'd try to stick with an hour, and I've already now blown it by 6 minutes, is we need to approve the minutes from the last meeting. And Kevin, obviously you weren't there, so you probably wouldn't want to be part of that vote. So looking for a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Okay, looking for a second.
Second that.
Okay, and all in favor, roll call vote. Mr. Garanitis,
Aye.
Mr. Bathalon,
Aye.
Ms. Kemet, aye. Okay, great. And our next meeting, is this time working for everybody? Just doing a little sanity check on that. Is this time and a Monday working for everybody?
That
Yep.
works for me.
Okay, all right, good. So do we want to go for 2 weeks from today? Will that work for people?
Sounds good.
Sure.
Just kind of keep things chugging along? Deb, yeah?
I'm probably going to be on vacation.
Oh, the
on the next
nerve.
week.
Yeah, but that's okay. We can still have a meeting, talk about the mission
You can.
statement, talk about because who wrote the mission statement originally that we have?
I
That's
don't
a
know.
great, well, I don't know that we have insight into
But
that,
we
Jim.
inherited it.
Yeah.
So since
I
we
didn't
inherited
write it.
I think it would be good that we, as
John, are
a
you saying you
committee,
did?
No, I didn't
Oh, oh,
write it. When you were done, I'm sorry for interrupting, because next Monday is Patriots Day. Sorry, 2 Mondays from now is Patriots Day.
oh, all right. So yeah, we're not going to want to do that because that will be a resource issue for us up at Town Hall.
So let me ask you this, is 1 week with everything that we're trying to accomplish, is next Monday? I'd like to have Deb's input. I think she's valuable, so I'd like for her
Yep.
to be here. I
I
agree
agree.
with Jim. Maybe we look to realign, now that the committee's all in order, to maybe realign our mission statement. And then also the 12th is our deadline for the survey. So maybe the 12th we regroup.
Are you guys okay with next week? And then we'll go back to the every 2 weeks after that, just recognizing this is a one-off? Okay. All right, great. Then our next meeting will be next Monday. Deb, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I have planning board, but that's at 6:30. So
Okay.
it does, make me
I know it
jump a little,
jams you up a bit, but we'll tweak
but
it a
it's
little bit
okay.
after that. Okay.
I mean, it's okay. I have a bunch of public hearings the 12th. I'm okay. It's okay. Yeah, I'm here. The good thing about it is I'm in town hall anyway, usually, because I have to stay for the meeting. So it's good. It's not a big imposition for me. I'm there working.
Okay. All right. Well,
So
I thought
Laura,
this was,
sorry to
Dan, go ahead.
interrupt.
No, go
So
ahead.
call to action before next meeting, we should all pound the pavement and hit the addresses that Deb's going to send out in an email, correct?
And
Yeah.
right, Deb's going to let us know who we're dividing and conquering, and we're going to hit the pavement and basically just reply to Deb. We've got to be real careful. I know we're under the gun, but we don't want to violate any open meeting laws by speaking to one another electronically. That's considered a deliberation, so just keep that in mind. Okay, well, I think this was a tremendously productive meeting. Jim? Yep.
and that's good. Can someone send, I can't find the mission statement. Can someone send it out to the group? So
Yeah, I
John-
don't have it on my
John
computer,
said
but
he would. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay,
Thanks,
great.
John.
All right, with that, Deb, did you have something else?
I was gonna see, Jim, I almost did it verbatim in the minutes because Laura read it and I put it in the minutes. So just so you know, if you read the minutes.
We looked at one that was put up on the screen, so
Yeah.
Okay.
we're all working off the same verbiage.
Yep, gotcha. We don't want to have different missions. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second. Kevin, I think you're muted, dude.
Sorry with that. I'll second that.
Okay, great. Roll call vote. Kevin,
Aye.
Mr. Garanitis,
Aye.
Mr. Bathalon,
Aye.
and Ms. Kemet, aye. All right, great, guys. Have a good week.